Good afternoon. It's Thursday, December 22nd. I'm Aryeh O'Sullivan, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. The evacuation of Amona has yet to be resolved. The High Court of Justice asked residents of Amona to submit a pledge 1 hour from now, asking them to guarantee unequivocally to evacuate the community in a non-violent manner without any conditions or reservations. The court rejected a declaration submitted by the residents earlier today, which was signed by the community's elected leadership, stating they would evacuate without confrontation in accordance with a decision reached by the entire community. Instead, the High Court is demanding that all residents sign a personal guarantee that they will evacuate peacefully. The recent developments come after the state requested from the court to delay the scheduled evacuation of the outpost by 45 days instead of December 25th. The court then offered both residents of Amona and the Palestinian petitioners to submit a response. German authorities have identified the body of 60-year-old Dalia Eliakim, the Israeli woman who was declared missing following Monday's fatal truck ramming attack at Berlin's Christmas market. Eliakim's family was notified overnight that she has been confirmed as one of the 12 people killed in the attack. IBA's Margaret Dudkevich reports.
The couple's 2 children, Or and Hen, arrived in Berlin Tuesday to assist the authorities in tracking down their mother Dalia, supplying DNA samples to officials. Last night they received confirmation that their mother was one of the 12 people killed in the attack. Israel embassy officials are now assisting the family, coordinating with authorities to have the mother's body sent back to Israel for burial. Dalia's husband Rami was seriously injured in the attack and remains in hospital where he's heavily sedated after undergoing surgery. President Reuven Rivlin said he was greatly saddened over the news and sent his condolences to the family, wishing Rami a speedy recovery. In his message, Rivlin said, "We will remain united and determined in the face of global terrorism." The Islamic State claimed responsibility for Monday's attack. Meanwhile, in Germany and across Europe, the manhunt continues for 24-year-old Anis Amri, a Tunisian asylum seeker whose identity card was found underneath the driver's seat of the truck used in the market attack. The authorities circulated his picture, posting a reward for information leading to his arrest. It emerged yesterday that Amri's request for asylum was rejected, and that he's known to have ties to radical Islamic groups in Germany, and used 6 different names and 3 different nationalities. He reportedly received a Yemen passport on Wednesday. There's also been public outcry after it was revealed that Amri had been investigated months before Monday's rampage and had been detained for 1 day and kept under covert surveillance for 6 months. This morning, security forces raided a number of sites across the country, arresting 4 suspects. They also raided several sites in Dortmund after receiving tips from the public that Anis had frequented the area, along with a German of Serbian descent. His family in Tunisia were also questioned by security officials there. Last night, the authorities opened up the Berlin Christmas market once again to the public after clearing the wreckage and debris from Monday's attack. Berliners and tourists flocked to the site, lighting candles and leaving flowers, pausing to mourn the 12 victims whose lives were cut short. Margaret Dudkevich, IBA News.
Joint List Arab MK Basel Ghatas announced this morning that he would waive his parliamentary immunity, but by so paving the way for his arrest on suspicion of smuggling cell phones to Palestinian security prisoners jailed in Israel. His announcement came just hours before a scheduled session at the Knesset today that was planned to debate the matter. Ghatas said he already knows the outcome in advance and decided to spare fellow MKs from having to take action. Last night, the Knesset House Committee unanimously voted to lift Ghatas' immunity. 15 members voted in favor, as recommended by Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit. He said that there was sufficient evidence to charge Ghatas for smuggling the phones into the prisons. Today's follow-up Knesset session was called in order to complete that process. Meanwhile, other members of the Joint List have called on Ghatas to resign altogether. Zionist Union MK Ariel Margalit has revealed a rare discovery. Margalit said that while on a recent trip to Europe, he was informed that the company assigned to build warships for Israel's Navy is owned by the family of Lebanese Defense Minister Samir Makbel, who is known for his close ties with Hezbollah. Margalit recently sent an urgent letter to Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit asking him to investigate the affair. According to Margalit, in 2015, the Navy agreed to purchase 4 SAR-6 corvette ships to defend Israel's offshore gas fields from the German company of ThyssenKrupp. They subcontracted the work to a shipyard called German Naval Yards Kiel, which is owned by Makbel. Margalit said the 3 Israeli businessmen, 2 former senior naval officers, and an attorney representing the defense establishment pressured the shipyard to change its name from Abu Dhabi Mar in order to cover up its ties with the Arab world. In his letter to Attorney General, Margalit wrote, "The fact that one of the owners of the same company that is building the Navy vessels for Israel is the defense minister of a country designated as an enemy state and who, according to reports, works with Hezbollah and Iran, triggers a warning light." IDF soldiers overnight demolished the home of terrorist Musbah Abu Sabih in the East Jerusalem village of Aqab. The terrorists perpetrated the shooting attack near Ammunition Hill in October this year, where border police officer Yossi Kirma and Lavana Melichi were killed and 6 others wounded. During the overnight operation, shots were fired and explosive devices set off near the security forces. The army said soldiers returned fire, killing an Arab as he threw an explosive device at them. He was identified as 19-year-old Ahmed Haroubi. No Israeli casualties were reported. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urged the United States to veto the proposed anti-Israel UN Security Council resolution condemning Israeli settlement activities that is scheduled for a vote later this evening. Netanyahu personally issued the call in a message on his private Twitter account early this morning. The UN Security Council is due to vote on one of the toughest draft versions of a resolution demanding Israel to completely cease all settlement activities in what it calls occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. The draft was authored by no other than Egypt, which circulated it among diplomats earlier this week.
Whoever today supports a UN Security Council resolution against Israel is in effect raising his hand for the bad guys, for the terrorists, for the forces of evil. Whoever raises his hand against Israel today is supporting terrorists in Brussels, in Paris, in Orlando, in London, and yes, in Manhattan. We expect the decent free world to support the world's #1 fighter against radical terror, Israel, not to fight us, to support us.
Well, joining us now from our Tel Aviv studio to discuss the upcoming vote, as well as other developments, is former Deputy Foreign Minister and Ambassador to Washington, Danny Ayalon. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you. Good evening.
First of all, Ambassador, what do you make of this anti-Israel resolution? Does it have any teeth?
Well, it does, unfortunately, and the language is very harsh, but there is nothing new. The Arab League, the Palestinians have long tried to embarrass Israel, actually to try and export all the anti-Israeli resolutions from the General Assembly of the United Nations, which is toothless, to the Security Council. In the Security Council, fortunately, we always had the United States to veto it, and the United States has a long tradition policy not to allow the UN to come in between Israel and its neighbors, because it has always been counterproductive. The United Nations did not support peace with Jordan or peace with Egypt in 1979. We have to understand that the United Nations today is a rubber stamp for the Palestinians, and they have no credibility, no morality, and the United States also, from its own interests.
Well, you mentioned Egypt. What about the fact that this was proposed by Egypt, which is diplomatically considered an ally of Israel?
Absolutely, and Egypt, and not just Egypt, throughout the Arab world, always there are two facets. One, of course, the strategic ties with Israel, which is in the utmost importance from national security for whether it's Jordan, whether Egypt, some Gulf countries, but at the same time, parallelly or simultaneously, they continue to attack Israel diplomatically, politically. Always they give the excuse that this is the desire of the Arab street. This is where the Palestinians foment a lot of inconvenience to all the Arab regimes.
Ambassador, you spoke about how the United States has traditionally been protecting Israel in the UN. Well, will it cooperate with the Prime Minister's appeal for them to veto this now?
Well, I hope so, because again, a resolution, a one-sided resolution at the United Nations siding with the Palestinians against Israel has no purpose at all except to discomfort Israel, because it will not further peace, quite the contrary. It will lock the Palestinians into a more intransigent position. They will have no incentive or no reason from their point of view to negotiate with us directly without preconditions or to make concessions. We have to understand that peace, it's not just Israel who needs to make the concessions. And the Arab and the Palestinians policy has always been to internationalize the conflict, not to do anything themselves, but bring in or bring on Israel the entire international community. The United States understands that and has understood that, and always it vetoed it. Also, the U.S. had a long tradition policy to be the main player here in the Middle East, not allowing the UN to replace the U.S. I hope this will continue because, again, for the sake of peace, the sake of stability, and also, I understand, for American interest, they should veto this resolution this evening as well.
Well, the Prime Minister has been concerned that President Barack Obama might take a parting shot before he leaves office, and maybe this is going to be it. Maybe tonight's vote will likely validate the Prime Minister's fears.
Well, I hope it's not the case because, again, there is no, I would say there is no room here for acrimony or personal relationship to really sway or to impact a resolution or a decision or a policy decision of the utmost national importance, certainly to Israel, also to the United States, and as I say, throughout the Middle East. Also, I believe, as there is an outgoing administration now, I don't think that the outgoing administration should tie the hands of the incoming administration, certainly not with such a major policy deviation from the past.
Well, the Prime Minister seems to be more optimistic about this incoming Trump administration. Any idea how he's going to handle the Middle East?
Well, it seems like he is going to actually top the or change totally the American foreign policy, not just vis-a-vis the Middle East, but also vis-a-vis China or Russia or even Europe or NATO. And it seems like from Trump's position, nothing is set or nothing is etched in stone. He's going to check everything from the bottom up, and he will not hesitate to change long traditions, especially when it comes to Jerusalem, especially when it comes to the Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria. So this may be a breath of fresh air when it comes to Jerusalem.
Ambassador Danny Ayalon, thanks so much for joining IBA News today.
Thank you.
Following a night of heated debates, the Knesset plenum has officially passed the budget for the next 2 years in its second and third readings. As expected, the arrangements bill was also approved. 60 Knesset members voted in favor, while 48 opposed. The 2016-2017 budget stands at a total of 906.8 billion shekels. Pleased with the outcome, Finance Minister Moshe Kachlon described the approved budget as social and colorblind, aimed at aiding all sectors of society. He said it included public growth and an increase of public spending and the lowering of taxes. The opposition rallied against the deal, calling it a boring budget with no good news for the people of Israel, particularly bad for the poor and needy, the working class, and the elderly. Expressing their solidarity with Syrian civilians, especially those trapped in Aleppo, Jews, Muslims, and Christians held a joint prayer session in Jerusalem earlier this week. The prayers were led by Jerusalem City Council member Rabbi Aaron Leibowitz and were conducted in Hebrew, English, and Arabic. Candles were lit and members of the congregation paused to reflect on the situation in Syria, where tens of thousands of people have been killed and hundreds of thousands displaced after they were forced to leave their homes.
Gathered together, Jews, Muslims, and Christians, to actually do what all human beings of faith do when they're in times of trouble, and pray together, but pray together as an expression of our care and concern for the civilians in Syria and the innocent people in Syria who are suffering because of the current aggressions that are there. I think that everybody all over the world is very concerned and very frustrated, but certainly here in Israel and here in Jerusalem, we're just a short distance away and yet feel like there's very little that can be done.
So when thinking about Syria and what we can do, I thought, what can Jerusalem offer? I mean, there's demonstrations all over the world. What can Jerusalem uniquely give the world? And I thought that really our gift to the world is prayer. Different types of people praying together is something that we can offer.
The plight of the Syrian civilians appears to have brought out the best in Israeli society. Across the country, religious and secular civilians, non-government organizations, and the army are joining forces, collecting money, donating clothes, warm blankets, medication, shoes, baby formula, and other goods that will be sent to the Ziv hospital in the north, where wounded Syrian civilians are being treated. The donations are being sent across the border for Syrian civilians in dire need.
I actually felt us as Jews, us of Israeli, we got to wake up, because this is what the Syrian people are actually going through, that Holocaust. They did. The Israeli, I can tell you for sure, in the last week woke up.
I think that the time has come, and the world leaders must take the right steps to stop those massacres, atrocities, and the murder, and to assist and give a hand to those victims who are looking for safe haven and humanity help.
The only thing we can do is just try to press, to yell, to help our prime minister and the government, to help the Syrian people. And apparently they move in the right directions. They did it before, and hopefully they'll do it in the future more.
The holiday of Hanukkah is just around the corner, and you know what that means. Sufganiyot, those jelly-filled, sweet, high on the carbs, caloric hazards that are hard to resist. The Abichal Bakery in Jerusalem has been making the holiday donuts since 1932. IBA investigated and brings you this tasting. Fried in oil, covered with sugar, and coated with sweets, these sufganiyot are one of the iconic foods of the Hanukkah holiday. Here at Avichal Bakery in Jerusalem, they'll be making about 5,000 sufganiyot a day.
You put flour in the big mixer, you add all kind of ingredients like water, even alcohol to the dough. The alcohol won't let the oil go into the sufganiyah. You put the dough into the machine that cuts the dough as a big sufganiyah that we want. Ready, rolled sufganiyot.
They sit in the leavening station for about an hour, and they're then fried in hot oil. Wait, let me ask you the most important question. When do you put the jelly inside?
The jelly, after the sufganiyah is taken out of the oil, right away we put the jello inside, right away. And then when it cools up a little bit, we put the sugar powder on top.
I feel good for my figure that I don't like sufganiyot, but I do buy them for my children and grandchildren.
Who'd offer me one of your best sufganiyot?
I would say that the classical, the jello, would be the best one.
Avichal's grandfather founded the bakery in 1932, and with his grandson working there, it makes it a fifth-generation institution. They've got it all down to perfection. How many calories are in a sufganiyah?
Oh, I would say the regular sufganiyah, just fried and with jello, would be around 200.
Oh, okay.
No more than that. The problem is that people are making new kind of sufganiyot, new kind, with covered and topped with cream cheese and cream and all kind of chocolate. That brings up the calories up to 400 or 500.
Sufganiyah. Oh, it's delicious. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah for everyone.
At least there's no calories in just looking. If all the sufganiyot have made you thirsty, then you can wet your whistle for free at the Psagot Winery over the upcoming Hanukkah holiday. The winery, which opened in 2003, is continuing to grow. In 2016, some 300,000 bottles of wine were produced, with more than 70% exported to dozens of countries around the world. Over the Hanukkah holiday, for a small additional fee, you can also take a tour in the footsteps of the Maccabim, with an emphasis on the art of winemaking from days gone by. That's the Psagot Winery in the Binyamin Regional Council, open Sunday through Thursday from 9 to 4. This year, the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah and Christmas fall on the same day, and with just 3 days to go, the Christmas spirit has already descended on Jerusalem and Bethlehem. The highly anticipated midnight mass will take place at the Nativity Church in Bethlehem, and the city is already decorated for the crowds. On Christmas Eve, Saturday evening, there will be free shuttle buses between Jerusalem and Bethlehem every half an hour from opposite the Jaffa Gate. Acclimating to the local conditions, Santa Claus made his way to the old city's Jaffa Gate, not on a reindeer, but on a camel. The Christian Quarter is this year holding a special Christmas market, which merchants hope will become an annual tradition.
Normally we used to go, most of us go to Bethlehem to see in the Nativity Church, to join the time over there, to enjoy the Christmas time over there. But now we're trying to help each other here, to do something else over here, to let much of the people to come over into the old city to see what's the meaning of the Christmas in the old city of Jerusalem.
In finance, the shekel was down and the stock exchange was mixed in trading. Here are the late afternoon numbers. Looking at the weather, and it will be partly cloudy with rain showers expected in the north of the country over the weekend, and temperatures will drop. Here are the expected highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. That's our broadcast for today. We'll be back again on Sunday with all the latest news from Israel. Please join us. Until then, have a great weekend and Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem.